when you get more mature, you realize like, yeah, I'm just on a mission here. And I actually don't choose the mission. I'm discovering the mission. So that's kind of that's leading into me. I'm going to share about my goals, but that's the perspective that I have. And through my 20s, I think what was happening was I was growing in the way I was thinking. I was getting closer to God, and I was understanding my life as a mission, and I was accepting the fact that although I am designing my life, I am also just discovering. I'm not inventing it, but I'm just discovering what God's mission is for me. And so, being faith based, I'm going to trust in God's plan for all the things that I don't control, and I'm going to be obedient to God and understand what the mission is. Always work to have a better understanding of what the mission is. Be obedient and stay on the mission. So when you hear people speak about purpose and that's how I feel about living a purpose driven life, is that this is what about you interpret the life as a whole mission. And for me, as I've been writing goals down like this and sharing them with people, and for years, and finding different ways to organize the goals, I have came to a conclusion that the most important box for me is the personal development box. Because if I can improve myself as a person, I improve the rest of the boxes. When I am writing goals down for all the other boxes, there's something that I have to achieve. Either something that I'm not currently able to do, or something that I am able to do currently. I just have to maintain something in my life. So it's nothing new. It's just something that I'm going to keep going. Okay, but that requires me to be a certain type of person. Not necessarily about the type of person, but me to be the person who can maintain or to bring something brand new into my life. So when I start running into challenges, and this is what I've always done with goals too, right? I always figure out what the challenges are. Here's, like, as I heard you go down through your goals, you're saying, hey, here's some stuff that's going well, here's some stuff that's not going well, and here's what I'm thinking about as of right now. Here's how I'm thinking about the future moving forward. So that is actually the structure. Without you maybe being super conscious about the structure, that is the structure. What is going well? What is challenging? How do you resolve your challenges? And so when I look at all my challenges for each of my boxes for years, right? I've been doing this for years. Okay, I want to make sure that's clear. For years, thinking about running all the challenges that I run into in each of my boxes. Eventually, it just comes down to, well, what can I? There's some things I can't control, and I'll trust in God's plan that things will work out according to how He wants it. But there's some things that He puts in my control, and it's my choice. He does maybe have some control over my thoughts and feelings, and I pray about it and say, can you give me more strength and wisdom so that my thoughts and feelings are on purpose? Meaning, like, I know what I want to be intentional with, but sometimes it's hard to control my own thoughts and feelings. So can you help me, please, God? Can you help me, please? I pray about it. But still, God leaves a certain amount of freedom. And so there are things that are my choice. And with those things, I can make the difference. I can move the needle. And so when I look at each of the boxes and the challenges I'm facing, it comes down to what I can control. And it all goes back to that one box called personal development. It's personal development. So then I'm right there going back to that box, identifying. Trying to overcome a challenge in any of the other boxes results in me writing something new, in either writing something new or putting double effort on something that was already there in that personal development box. So I hope that's making some sense. I put some passion into that, and I spent a good time just sharing what my perspective is going into writing goals and the boxes here. I'm going to share screen, and I'm going to, talk about my personal development box. I'll do a quick run through of the boxes, but I am actually going to dive into the personal development box specifically today. What I would like to see us do is be able to shorten this down, right? So for me, the goals are annual. These are annual goals that I'm looking at. So I just wrote things down like, what can I try to achieve this year? Some of these things won't become a clear day and night dynamic of achievement, meaning like there's no clear point of reaching the goal. Like, hey, I didn't reach the goal yesterday, but today I reached it. And now I hit it. It's done, check mark. So some of these things are not like that. And there's no way to get to that point. But that's okay. That's okay. What does need to be that is more of the short-term goals. Short-term goals do need to be that way. So what we should do, in my opinion, right? We can discuss it. What we should do is try to narrow down in a shorter time frame. So when you look at my goals, I'm thinking about so far the ones that I've written and I'm going to show you on the screen is annually. These are annual goals. In 2025, which I call the year of establishment. In 2025, these are the things that I want to achieve. But in a shorter time frame, we're talking about a quarter. So then we should have goals for the quarter. And quarter goals should be so specific, should be quantifiable, should have like the intended results and results oriented, but should also have like action goals, activity goals, the things you do to achieve results. And be clear about what you're trying to do, right? Quantifiable, very specific, measurable. So these are the thoughts that I'm having, right? This is kind of where I'm at. When we look at my boxes, some stuff is a little bit new, but I've already shared some of this stuff. In personal development, I have a choice management system, which is what I'm going to dive into today. I'm going to share on the screen some other pages. And also for personal development is about developing certain skills and expertise. And third, for personal development, having a peer accountability group. I've always had something like this in my life. And so because I was missing it, I invited my brother to do this with me. In the social aspect of my life, my family is number one, most important. So I'm designing my life in the macro and the grand scheme around family being super important to me. When it's not about developing myself, it's about doing things for my family. And so when you look at these columns, it really comes down to love and happiness. Everything that falls under the visually, when you see this, personal development is on the happiness side. I become a happier and happier person by developing myself, and that's doing things for myself. And it's interesting because the more happiness I have, the better a person I am to love others. Very, very interesting. It works both ways. The more that I have love from and for other people in my life, the more happiness I can feel for myself to enjoy selfishly. But it works both ways. Like the personal development part is on the happiness side to help the stuff that's on the right column. Okay, everything underneath falls the same way. Health is about my health. It's not, my health goals are not about improving somebody else's health. I have opinions all day and night about other people's health because I love my family and friends, and I love a lot of people in the world in general, right? That's the Jesus Christ way of living. But if I love people and I want them to be healthier, I would like to have goals for them too. But that's just not the way it works. Health goals are my health goals. It's about my happiness. It helps me be happier. Same thing with spirituality. That's between me and my God and my purpose in life, not anybody else, not love or anything like that. And so the things on the right side of the column, although they might not make sense immediately, it is more on the love side. And so for me, right, during this series, I understand the connection very clearly. I've put them in this specific order, and I'm not trying to convince you, but it may be compelling for you to think about it this way too, is that number one, I write that on the top here is the family for me. And the social aspect of life, family is most important. For some people, maybe they're a little bit disconnected from family. I don't think that's you in your case, but some people that is very much the case. So when I have these type of groups with other people, I can learn a whole lot about all different kinds of way of living, because some people's social aspect is about having a inner circle, and the inner circle is mostly of peers. It's your friends, people who are not necessarily your family, and 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 people who are not connected to you for any productive reasons, but people who are connected to you for some reasons of love, and it's more of a friendship type of love there that's going on. So I think these people, some people, right, are trying to find romance in their life too. So they're trying to find a significant other to build a life with, a life partner, and so there's all uh, these different lives being lived by other people out there, and you'll see that this box is different, but all of us have a social aspect to our life. Part of your health is having a social life, actually, but I think it deserves its own box. For me, it's family, and of course, that's obvious love and householding together to build my own family was a huge thing in my life. I've established that, but now I have two kids. Um, my younger daughter is kind of still a baby, but she's growing out of being a baby. She's growing out of being a baby, so I don't have any. Looking forward, it's like I don't have babies anymore. I have two kids, and we moved into a new apartment, and I have to be thinking about how do I want to raise kids. Establishing a family is done, but establishing more for the family is still yet to come, because the game is different. It's hard when you're raising two little ones. It's hard to raise any little one, any baby becoming a toddler. The toddler stage is hard, and that stuff is hard. Raising two of them at the same time is also hard. But many parents tell me when they get older, it's even harder. And I don't agree or disagree with that. I think that when I get to that point, like each age of my daughters, I can have my experience to share and say, hey, you know what, this was hard for me, but this was hard for me in the past, but this was hard for me now. Do I compare those two and like try to figure out what's harder? It's going to be hard just to be a parent and raise families, but many things worth doing is hard. So I accept it. I already knew it. And so for me, householding together is about doing that. How do we run a family? One big thing I'll share about that is like, in this family, I want it to be where we can rely on each other to help ourselves with our feelings. So I make it very important to be able to talk about feelings. And so me and my wifey talk about our feelings with each other, and my children are being taught to talk about their feelings as well. And so one big thing about householding, as on top of everything we do, right? So we're like very clean people. We want to be organized. We like healthy living. So we run the household in a way to incorporate those things. And we're teaching the girls responsibility all along the way. When you're parenting kids and you're trying to make them do things, that's what it is. We make them do what we want them to do. And many times you don't have a choice. You want to do this instead, but you do not get to choose for your own life, because I am responsible for your life mostly, like 99%. And then you get this little 1% of choice, right? And that's a hard thing to do. You really love somebody, and you're like, damn, I don't want to be that way, and I don't want to hurt them by bringing authority, but you need to do it, right? However, when my daughters do have feelings, I am already, even the one that barely talks, showing that there is space. There's time and space to be given to address the feelings, and we will reconcile any hurt that has happened in the householding together that happens. So that's one huge thing that I'm always learning about every day, on top of all the specific things like doing the chores. And I can talk about all the specifics at another time. To me, that's part's easy because I already have it listed. It's been there for a long time. So householding together is like something that we're achieving here. And with that becomes some roles where like my wife's a homemaker and I'm a financial provider. So you'll see that the second thing I have written here is to provide financial security for my family. It means going and making an income, but it also, for me, means being responsible with the money, having a plan always. And because of my financial advisor background, of course, I do very well with that. And And this is different, just real quick, because me and you know the same person, Little Raul. Little Raul says he gives all his money to his wife. His wife manages the money, right? And in a sense, you say he provides financial security, but I would say he provides income for his household, for his family. Right? He provides income, and not necessarily financial security. His wife making sure that they save money, making sure they pay the bills, understanding what their plan is and stuff like that. That's also providing financial security. The security aspect is what I'm talking about here. It's why I wrote it that way, not just to sound fancy. I wrote it that way because that is the word that I mean. That's the word that means what I'm thinking and feeling for me. So providing financial security, I do that for the household. And then third, what I have right here is quality time. Quality time is the thing, is the main goal. Now in 2025, I don't know exactly how far I can go with this. It's hard to quantify it, but I can be actually. I can quantify hours. So on my Google Calendar, I have blocks of time set aside for family quality time. That's what it is right now. You can outside of those blocks, I can still find quality time by spending time with my family, just doing the householding together. We can make it quality time. Doing anything together, you can make it quality time. I take my kids to the grocery store sometimes, and that's part of householding together. But if we make it a good time, right, you can make it quality. And it can be low quality, but if you do really well, it can also be very high quality. So quality time is a huge thing, and it's always going to be in the box. And actually, the whole goal in life, like being in the top box, is about the quality time. If I can design my life in a way to maximize the quality time, then I would do that. And what do I mean by maximize the quality time? Well, I don't want to move backwards, so I want to keep like a minimum. I want to understand what that minimum is. And I've never been able to learn so much of that as I am now. Why? Because I'm being challenged. I've worked this hard in the past. However, when having kids, working this hard and not having autonomy over a schedule, that is super challenging because I don't want to move backwards in the other parts of my life neither. I want to maintain my health. I want to think about my professional life and pursue entrepreneurship. So if I want these other things in life as well, and I still want to keep quality time, right? It's this huge balance that I have to work on. So I've never been able to learn so much about how do you maintain a minimum quality time for your family or now having kids. So keeping is one thing. But because I already have the personal development skills to be disciplined, then I still do well. But also getting more quality time. And what it's going to take, right, is like when we're talking about time freedom. So I need to have some autonomy over my schedule. And at the same time that I pursue time freedom, I'm pursuing financial freedom. And so together, more time freedom, more financial freedom, I'll be able to have more quality time. But besides more quality time, better quality time, right? So when I say more, we're talking about quantity of time, quantity of quality time with my family. But better quality time means more quality. So that's why I put the two words there, because more, I'm referring to how much time is being able to be blocked off on a calendar for my family. And better means out of the time that I do have with my family, how can I make it even better and better? And that is going to rely on personal development. So getting more quality time, getting more time with my family is going to come with financial freedom, time freedom. But getting better quality time is going to come from me being a better person. Now, I don't have any of the stuff in the box necessarily here that relates to that point there, but I used to. And so as an example, it would be like being able to put aside my feelings and thoughts about anything else and put my complete focus into my family. Being able to be a very positive person, being able to flip like a switch on and off how I bring all the loving energy, excitement to my family. So this is huge, right? And then here's some other things. I don't want to say they're not important, but they're just minor compared to that, right? But I want to lead my family to improve our quality of life, and doing the rest of the stuff that happens automatically. But becoming more specific is where I actually have the conversation with my wife, and then as my kids get older and they're able to talk about it, we talk with them too. It was very funny though, because one time we were when I lived in the apartment downstairs. We were talking about family. We were talking about family goals. Okay, so we write some stuff down and say, what are family goals? Right? What are the different areas that we like? Just like this, we have 6 boxes. What are the different areas of our lives together as a family that we wanna work on, and we want to set goals? And so we made that clear, and we started to write things down, and it ended up, and that wasn't 6 boxes like this, it was like a web. And if our family's in the middle, what are these different things that were spreading out to build together? So when doing that, Nazi was eating at the table, and we asked her, what do you think, what are some of the goals? And she just started to say some random stuff. I don't know if she really understood the conversation. She thought she did, so that's all that mattered. And we let her say something, and that was us practicing involving her. But doing that kind of stuff and having family goals, talking about it, that's where this will kick in, where we will narrow focus on this specific thing. Doing the stuff above, these first 3 things, automatically improves the quality of life for us as a family. And then 5th down here is participate and contribute to a tribe. So in making my family unit stronger, I have enough love in my life, but I have a big enough heart. I have a big enough heart, believe it or not, to give and receive love outside of my family unit. So I come from a great family, yourself, my brother, and my parents. And so I continue to maintain those relationships strong. And I think for you, it's obvious the effort I put towards that. So you can see I'm doing that. But then outside of them and the families that my 2 parents come from, the family that my wife comes from, these are also what I consider a part of my tribe. And so everyone kind of has their tribe, and that's how I think about it. And then one day I see myself as a leader to a tribe. I see the tribe as anybody who accepts me as one of the leaders. So that's on the social aspect. Down here, I have ways of thinking about health. I have different categories of my health: exercise, nutrition, right? It's the way you move your body. It's what you put in your body, the eating. It's how you rest your body, right? Just shut off, stop using your conscious mind, and stop being awake. You stop being awake, then certain organs turn off and other organs kick on, and your body can do what it needs to do without you understanding, even knowing that it's doing it. So that's also important. Move your body, what you feed your body, the way you stop using your body, and then the mind, thoughts and feelings, mental and emotional care, and then physical care, right? Take a shower, brush my teeth. I want to have my teeth for a long time. I don't want to resort to fake teeth. So hopefully and having mom be in dental helps a lot, knowing that stuff. But sometimes I'm just all too fucked up and I skip flossing my teeth. But I work on it. But taking showers, of course, moisturizing my skin. I'm getting older. Angel was like, "What's your secret?" Like, how old are you? I was like, 31. What? What's your secret? I fucking exercise, honey. Eat right. Nah, but you know, like the moisturizing your skin, like for me, always something about that always. But I know looking older and something and stuff like that. I know sunscreen, like mom, but physical care is all that kind of stuff. What you do there, and then on the work, doing things for the sake of being productive and being results oriented. It's important that I work for money. So that's why I'm employed by Bureau Veritas, because I want to work for some money, for some income. But I also see myself as a professional, and it's hard to not think that way, even when I don't want to. A lot of times I show up as an inspector and I don't want to think that way. I'm just like, fuck this. It's just a job. It's just work so that I can get some money. But I can't help it. This is how I am already. I just through all my 20s made myself this type of person. I think of myself as a professional. So if I'm working, I'm doing it as a profession, as a professional. And so it's with that in this employment with that company, but in anything else I do. I want a different profession. And I'm not too excited about being a professional inspector. I'd like to be a professional leader, maybe a professional speaker, if I could just put some type of title there. Then that's where we get into these things down here. And of course, right, I want to pursue entrepreneurship because I believe that It's a great way because it's rewarding, fulfilling, like on a spiritual, personal development level, but also time freedom and financial freedom, those rewards as well. So when I think of my professional life, I think about business. I see myself as a business person because when I got out of college, I went and learned how to be a businessman. So ever since then, I do see myself as a business professional. Even as an inspector, I still see myself as a business professional, but I want to pursue entrepreneurship because of the rewards. So I believe to get myself there, I need to think about putting content online for the sake of personal branding. What I mean by personal branding is digitizing my reputation. I heard that from someone else. I said, that's a pretty good definition. So I'm going to start seeing it because that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. As a businessman, I learned about building a reputation, but it was like old school networking. And that's what your personal brand was. Every time you show up, you make an impression. If you make great impressions on people, that becomes your brand to those people. Not only that, but because you made a good impression with those people, they talk about you in a good way to other people. So now without you even having to shake hands, you still get that effect that most people nowadays, like talking about younger generations, they only understand it through online shit. They don't think about it necessarily in other ways. It's easy to understand that though, right? Like if you put something online, you can make an impression without even knowing you're making an impression. It's easy to understand that. But how about you understanding that every time you make an impression on somebody, you're also making an impression on other people because that person can talk about you to other people. Even if they don't say something specific about their opinion of you, people are going to read vibes. So whatever someone's vibe is of you, like whatever their vibe is from dealing with you, they kind of just show people that without even saying much about you as well. One big example is that when people interact with me in front of somebody else who I don't really interact with, it kind of gives them something to take about me. Right? That's giving them an impression like, wow, this person is really cool with me. They're so comfortable with me. They're just right away just talking about stuff and they don't feel uneasy at all. Now this person starts to feel like that's how they feel about me. And so there's this huge multiplier effect that happens when you do it that way. So I understood that, but now what about I just film myself and put it online? So that's becoming there. And I'm talking about, being a businessman, pursuing entrepreneurship where I build something, build a business from the ground up, and then talking about being like a leader and a speaker. And I don't really, there's plenty of things I'd be interested in doing, but I just got to determine what business niche. I got to pick something, serve there, and then that'll find this whole box all in alignment. Right now, I don't have all this alignment that I want, so that's where I'm moving towards. And I think most important there, I wrote a bullet point here that wasn't there last time we met, is who to serve, right? I think if I can just narrow down that and think about who is it that I'm going to serve, then the rest is easy to figure out. I think determining a business niche is really that, who to serve. And there's many ways to think about it. I'm not going to go into that one too much now, but it's going to be a great conversation to get into another time. So on the spiritual side of things, I got some things that I used to do a lot before, and I'm bringing them back into my life. Study purpose-driven life. I mean the book, but I mean the concepts most importantly that are in the book. So reading the book is one thing. I haven't started. I started rereading a little bit, but I haven't been reading it much again. But I've read it already once, so I know the concepts. And so I'm also just kind of trying to keep the concepts top of mind to keep myself intellectually tuned up with what this stuff means. That's important to control thoughts. So that's why that comes into play. But doing meditation, which is where I do the opposite. Instead of thinking about controlling the thoughts, I let go of the thoughts. So it's like closing apps on your phone. Meditate and just let it go. Whatever comes up, oh, okay, I have that thought. It's interesting. Well, I'm not thinking about it anymore. Oh, wow, look at these other thoughts. Yeah, those probably been there all day. Forgot they were there all day because I was just focused on whatever was right in front of me. But in the back of my mind, all these thoughts were sitting there, taking a toll on my operating system. And this meditation is for me to let it go, leave. Sometimes I'm like, I need to think it through though. All right, let me write that down. Like, find better time to think that through. I do need to think that through. I can't help it, but I have a feeling about that stuff. So that's why it keeps popping up in my brain. Set some time to figure it out. Cool. That's why I have a lot of journals. I didn't write journals in here, but I guess because I already do it a lot. I never stopped, never slowed down. But let me just write it because it's something that I want to maintain. Hiking as church. Damn, that's huge. So when I did that hike the other day, that was beautiful. In my financial box, I had some specific things like savings rate, maintaining a 20% minimum savings rate, 10% to the long term, and at least 10% to the short term, because I want to get myself in a position financially where I would be willing to take the risk and start a business. Then I have to have a more than 10% towards short-term savings. So it's not a dollar amount, but it's like whatever my income is, percentages have to be there. So since I have a minimum expenses to provide for my family, then in order to maintain 20% savings rate, I have to maintain a minimum income, which is why I couldn't leave this job just whenever I want to. And then an emergency fund is another goal. So savings rate is one thing, just as a percentage of my income, how much am I keeping and not spending? And but all money saved is planned to be used at some point in the future by yourself or by your legacy. So if you're going to save money for retirement, you're saving the money because that money is meant to be spent later. So all saved money is planned to be spent at some point in the future. If you have leftover money, even through all your retirement, and when you die, then the idea is that you leave it to your kids. If you don't do any planning around that, then you're stupid. No, I'm just playing. I don't really believe that. But that's the idea of legacy planning, estate planning. It's the same thing. It's the idea that I'm going to have so much left over that I'm going to pass it on. And what really becomes more important at that point is assets, right? That's none of my goals here. I'm talking about this year. But point I'm making here is that you have savings rate, which is the planning to spend money in the future. So you're like, I'm going to spend this much money each month now, currently, and I'm going to save this much money now, currently, each month. And some of that money is going to be used for this in the future, but some of that money is going to be used for that in the future. I separated it first as short term, long term. And one of the things is having an emergency fund. You don't want to have to use your emergency fund because you don't want emergencies. That's what the money's for. For me, it's three times of my monthly expenses. Monthly expenses are about 4,000, a little bit above, but to make it easy, I just said 12,000 minimum as an emergency fund, and I'm actually almost there. So we'll be following up on that. Today, I want to dive in a little more on the personal development stuff. I know I'm already going long, but I still want to get into a little more stuff on the personal development. So I'm not going to talk any more about that now. But what I would like to do in these meetings too is give an update and say, hey, I'm this much towards the goal, like 80% to 12,000, right? And then see myself hit the goal. And then besides an emergency fund, saving for changing my career, a career changing fund. So the idea that I have an emergency fund set up and that money is for the emergencies, but also having some money set up so that I can change my career. I think that at some point I'm just going to want to do it. Like, no, just I think that if I had it right now, if I had the emergency fund, I had a career changing fund, if I knew which business exactly I wanted to do, if I have some personal branding by online content already going in live events, then I think it was like a no brainer. It's like, yeah, I'm done with this job. I'm out. Right. So in reverse engineering, it's like, okay, if I'm in that place, what is in place? It's these things. I don't have these things now, so I have to get them. So it's reverse engineering for the life that I really want and saying, okay, well, what do I have to bring into my life that's not already here? And there it is. So the only reason why I guess I wouldn't be in a rush to do it is because I don't want to do it the wrong way. And what's the wrong way? Well, it's very subjective to my balance in life. So this is all my boxes. What I wanted to do was show you something. I wanted to show you. Let's see if I can pull it in this Google account. Are you still there, by the way? I've been paying attention to my screen so long that.
Yeah, I'm still.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to take this to my desk where my charger is. Let's see if I have. I'm going to talk about my choice management system. This is some next level shit. Oh, okay, there it goes. Right? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, cool. So from your screen, you can zoom a little bit. I'm going to zoom a little bit, but zoom how you feel like. Actually, I'm going to zoom out first, so just so that I can explain to you what's going on here. How does it look? Let me look on here. Okay, cool. So it's an Excel sheet. It's not that pretty. I don't think it's pretty. To me, it's only pretty because I know what's going on here. But aesthetically, it's actually not pretty at all. So here's what's going on, right? In this column, I have priorities, and I just made it simple, saying what is number one priority, what is number 2, 3, 4. That's simple. I went and chose. I had to choose what it was. I think this is what works for me. But in my perspective, right, from my perspective, it's something I'd be willing to discuss with anybody. But from my perspective, it's work for anybody. You just have to make it work for you. It's a choice of whether you want to make it work. The reason why this is so great, I'm selling this a little bit, is that it gives you clarity on the bigger picture and on any little thing you're doing in the short term. And it really helps you consider time scarcity when you're trying to manage your choices. So I talked about this a lot. I don't think we actually manage time, besides the fact that we're allocating time to things. But you don't really do anything like control to the time. You're just managing your choices across time frames. So that's why I say choice management, not time management. But you won't hear me say time management much unless I'm talking to somebody who doesn't think about these things or has never heard me say choice management. But I'm talking about choice management. And in order to determine what the priorities are, I have to figure out what my values are, right? Sometimes you're like, my values are, what do I value, right? For me, like when I first heard that and I tried to write down that stuff, I wrote down a bunch of random shit and then felt like I didn't make much progress. Like, okay, but these are all my values, but how does it help me now that I just wrote all that stuff down? What it comes down to is like you're more and more clear about the values and why it's important to know that and how it's helping you. Being clear about your values and knowing how that helps you by being clear about it is because you know what your macro commitments are. That's the word I put to it. I'm going to explain the concept. It doesn't have to be the words that I put to it, but your macro commitments are the things that you commit yourself to in the bigger picture. Not like so, like when someone say, I already have a commitment on that day, right? Yeah, that's a micro commitment. So it's just like the here and the now. And so typically that's what we're doing. We're doing time management and a calendar so that we can make micro commitments so that we don't double book. And we learn that lesson in the beginning of the journey of personal development and time management. You learn that lesson that you don't overbook. And then you learn how valuable it is immediately when you say, hey, I have a planner, I have a calendar, and I set dates and times for things, and I commit myself, and you see the value right away. What's less easy to see is the value of doing this in the bigger picture. Because here's the problem, right? So before I cut to the chase, I can cut to the chase in one sentence. Actually, I'll give you the sentence, and then I'm gonna make the point this other way. But what I wanted to do, right? What I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to tell you what the challenge is, what becomes the problem with thinking on the long term. But the point is that you have to understand what your macro commitments are in order to determine what your priorities are. Because your short-term commitments are not always going to be aligned with what you want in the bigger picture. And so you may be a great disciplined person and not have the fulfillment you want in life, because you need to find better alignment between what you're doing in the short term and what you want in your bigger picture. Okay. And remember, at the end of the day, the bigger picture, from my perspective, and being faith-based, is a mission in life. Before I shared the goals and everything, I was talking about that, and this is why. Because that's how I see it. My life is a mission. I'm always just discovering more and more what God has set as my mission. Okay. So in order to bring more value, I'm going to give you this context about what is the problem, right? How do we run into problems when we're thinking on the long term? And I'm going to show you. And the example is like people say, hey, this is why I don't like to plan, because plans always change. I say, what the fuck? That means you're just not adaptable. You're the person who says, well, fuck it. No plan then. Plans change. Don't put a plan at all. No, I think differently. I think you must learn to be adaptable. You must grow yourself intellectually and emotionally to handle that. You can't control everything in life. So when the plans change, when the plans must change, it doesn't mean there's no plan. It means it went from an old plan to a new plan. And the quicker you can get on the new plan, the better. Not, hey, it's better for me to not have a plan because I feel better about it. You think you do. You think you feel better about it. But it's not true, okay? Because of the alignment thing that I'm talking about. Is your short-term commitments aligned with your long-term commitments? Do you even have long-term commitments? Some people don't do any planning besides, my boss needs me there at this time. I need to pick up my kids at this time. And it's great to be a responsible person. It's great to stick to the love in your life and be there for your kids and shit, and your significant others and your family members whenever you have commitments with them. But how about you love yourself better so that you can love others better? Okay. And the way to do that is to make those type of commitments for yourself. Okay. So some people, I'm saying, like, they don't really do much planning or whatever. And some people might say it's because plans change, or some people just don't like to. I don't want to have everything planned out. I don't like that. I'm not a robot. Some people are like that. And that's fine. That's just going to limit the intentionality that you're going to have in life. And that's okay. I'm not thinking of you less of a person or thinking you're in a bad situation because you're living that way. I don't think that, actually. I think that some of us want to be extremely intentional and some of us don't. I think when you say YOLO, I think I'm celebrating YOLO. You only live once. That's the motto, nigga, YOLO. And I think other people are celebrating the same thing, but they're thinking about it differently. And they're like, YOLO, like, just do whatever the fuck you want in the moment. Don't think about it so much. Don't be so hard. And I'm like, YOLO, you only get one shot. You never get the time back. So why not be super intentional? Why not all of us just get harder on it but I understand. To me, like, see, when I say this right now, I'm saying it in the privacy of me and you. Whoever else is listening outside of my window is going to hear it too. I'm not meaning to talk to them, so I'm not meaning to say it to them. So I wouldn't always be saying this to anybody, but I'm saying it here in this setting, that I think that it is a weakness. Now, for somebody to choose to be weak is like within the freedom that God has given them. And I am not to interfere with God's plan for other people. I'm not even, I mean, it's how much is it for me to even understand that for other people? If somebody's coming to me and saying, hey, Eli, I'm trying to get a better like yourself, brother Abraham. If anybody in my life says, hey, Eli, I'm trying to get a better understanding of what God's mission is for me, can you help me? I want to ask you some questions about me and what you see about my life and see if you can help me think through this. Okay, now I think it's appropriate. Now it's okay for me to talk about God's plan for you and even think about it, right? Other than that, like, what is the point? I have a mission. I don't have any time and space to be thinking about God's plan for other people. So if your choice is to be weak, then that's your choice. And I think that what it comes down to is being intentional is hard intellectually. And some people don't do it because they're weak emotionally and or intellectually, right? If you are weak intellectually, you don't know any better. You don't even know how to you don't know how to do anything different. If you're weak emotionally, you know that you could be more intentional, but it's so hard. It's so hard to do it. You just want to chill sometimes. You just want to do things that are not planned. Right, Abraham? Right, we were talking about that. Like, man, sometimes and then the funny thing is that when you're growing, you're like, I'm still productive though. I just want to do this other productive thing. Right. And so then you're playing with the balance. It's like, I want to be very disciplined and stick to what I said, but I'm also feeling like I would be better aligned if I changed the plans. Okay. So you need a system. You need a system that allows you to do that responsibly, where you can change the plans. You can change the plans, brother, but it needs to follow a system that you're committed to on the macro level. Let me show you what it is for me. So for me, macro commitment, number one, right? This is how I know that number one priority is my family's financial security. Let me highlight it. This stuff here. You can see that, right? My family's financial security is my number one priority. Not because money is the most important thing to me. My family, yeah, is number. That's a big reason, right? Because it's my family, but because that's the situation. That's what it is. We need money to survive and have the life we have. So, that's number one. That's why the job is so important. That's why that takes priority above all this other shit. The reality of that is hard to accept. It's like a hard pill to swallow, right? But I need to take the pill, no matter how big it is, and no matter how hard it is to swallow that pill. I got to swallow the pill. It's a hard pill to swallow, but the truth is that I need to stick to the job to make money for the family. Okay, how much time? So what you'll see is on the top, you'll see priority, macro commitment. It needs to understand what the macro commitments are, and then you'll see the more specifics coming in. What is the engagement that you're going to do? And the engagement is like something outside of you that grabs your attention. So when you are engaged, you are letting your attention being pulled. You're putting your focus in and you're letting your attention being pulled by something external. So that's the word there, the engagement. Bureau Veritas is the engagement. It's dominating my choice management. So I choose to be engaged. They want the role to be on call, where if they call me because they need me, then I have to be responsive. They need me to go show up in an hour, then I got to go show up in an hour. That's an hour's notice is what they think is enough. And I'm engaged. So it's the hard reality. It can be up to 70 hours a week. It's not 70 hours. It's not actually, even if I'm clocking those hours, it's not actually 70 hours every week. But I just said like it could be, and I include anything that I do that has to do any driving time, any like I'm getting dressed, any like I need to go get supplies from the store, right? I need to go buy some boots. I need to fucking clean the car, or I need to anything that has to do with the engagement of being employed by Bureau Veritas. Anything is included in the 70 hours. So I just said like it can be up to that much. So let me just say that that is already allocated. Okay. So that is what's going on here on the columns. Hope that makes some sense. Now, what's going down the rows is priority number 1, 2. The number 2 for me is health minimum. Thinking like, okay, I have this big commitment to making some money because I want to provide financial security for my family. I have a lot of time allocated already to that, but it's unpredictable. Sucks. But I have to maintain some minimums. I have to at least get enough sleep. I have to at least eat enough to keep going. And I have to groom enough, dude. I have to fucking come home and shower sometimes, brush my teeth, take a shit, and cut my fingernails. That's one of the worst. Fingernails start getting long, they're all fucking dirty from working in the field. So I still have to have some minimum grooming, right, as well. So some health minimums is what I say is my number 2. Number 3 for me is householding as a family. So doing the things at home like meal planning, because I don't like to be buying food out. We have to make sure we have food at home. So I do a lot of the grocery shopping because I'm very good at it. I do a lot of grocery shopping. And then I will do some of the cooking at home and prepping the meals, stuff like that. And especially because we feed our kids too, you know, so there's a lot of work that goes there. And then other chores around the house, just all sorts of cleaning that always goes down. And other chores besides cleaning. But these are the stuff that I call householding as a family. There's parenting focus. So besides just spending, like trying to spend quality time where we're not doing anything productive, like you got to be a parent. You got to teach your kids how to live. You got to set rules and you got to enforce them. And you got to teach them good habits. Be responsible and stuff, and got to be there for them as like their main figures, right? Like you're their main peoples, and so got to be able to put some focus to that. So before I get to any other stuff, as part of householding as a family, I'm giving some focus to being a parent, and everything gets its time allocated. I just want to share with you how my priorities are set up. After householding as a family, number 4 is health improvement. So besides just having a minimum to health, now how do I go above the minimum and improve my health? And for me, it would be exercise. Number is like super important. Moving your body, right? Like I don't care about getting more and better sleep as much as I care about at least get some exercise outside of the job. I don't care about like being able to eat a little bit more if I haven't done at least a little bit of exercise. So doing a lot of that stuff. And I have specific shit. I know you'd be interested, so I'm gonna go over it. Daily core and stretch. Daily do something for the core and stretching out the muscles is a part of that health improvement. Boxing. I want to always have some boxing. I love it. Like recreationally, I love the sport. And I also love it like an art. And then strength and endurance. So, I lift a little bit of weights to make sure I'm always applying some extra strength. But I also don't really lift too heavy. So I'm at the same time working on a little bit of strength. I'm also working on some endurance. And then there's cardio. So just exercise that is for the sake of getting the heart pumping. So that's number 4. And then I have a gap here. Why? Because I typically run out of time. But what's pretty cool is that sometimes I don't work a whole 70 hours, probably like almost every week. Almost every week, I don't really hit the 70 hours towards Bureau Veritas. Even if I clocked that much in a week, I actually don't hit it. So instead of spending the time there, I get to spend time on other things. Number 5 is special occasions as a family, doing celebrating the holidays, going to parties, doing vacations. If I were to put some time to it, then I will say, like, even though it's not every week, I would say, it adds up. So if I'm spending 10 hours in a month towards that stuff, then how much is that a week? And I just put something there. And then there's some stuff down here that I hardly get to, like on an intentional basis in my standard of intentional. But as I can, then I start to work on some other stuff, like how I can, build a business, how I can get extra family time, how I can be involved in my brotherhood at Kappa. But this is where it all starts. My choice management system starts there. Once I got the time allocations, once I got all the numbers, like the number of hours I'm going to be spending on different things, then I have this. And so a pie chart is really nice to look at. So we'll put our eyes there first. When you look at the pie chart, there's a little legend here. And the pink is health. So this big chunk right here, that's 69.5 hours in a week, is towards health. The other big chunk that looks about the same, it's actually 70 hours. So it's like the same, just a little half hour more. That 70 hours, this big chunk, which is this light blue, is for financial security. Wow, look at that. So health, financial security, and this little chunk here, which is the blue, is for family. That's it. You see nothing, no other colors, because that's pretty much it. I talked about a lot more things, though. So how is it only 3 things that show up? Well, I just categorized into those 3 things. Like the sleep that I do is part of the health. And then when you look at the table next to that, the pie chart is created based on the table here. So this is where I just took all the numbers from the last sheet and I put it into here. So financial security stuff gets carved out here. And what you'll see on this column is how many hours I have remaining to allocate after I've allocated towards this activity. So the total number of hours in a week are 168. After I've allocated 70 for employment and 1 for planning what? Financial security stuff, financial planning. Okay, so after I've allocated that, you'll see what I have remaining, 98 and 97. So 97 after financial security is taken care of. Where do I go next? Well, priority number 2 is my health minimums. I need to sleep at least 43 hours a week. So after sleeping at least 43 hours a week, I have 54 hours in the week to allocate to other things. But also a part of my health minimums, I need to eat enough and I need to groom enough. So after allocating enough to my health minimums, now I'm at 39 hours. So the colors don't match, but maybe I should make them match. But I made the pie chart way after I was doing this for years, and then the pie chart kind of came recently. So the big pink stuff here is anything health. You'll see the health minimums and you'll see the health improvement stuff, which is my exercising. And that gets all wrapped up into this number, the pink on the pie chart. My 3rd priority was the family, householding as a family. So the stuff here gets categorized as this blue. Altogether, it's about 21 hours. I'm questioning because the numbers I added here was all because I added that. Well, maybe I need to look on that pie chart, how that's configured. But yep, just wanted to show this real quick. That's the level of intentionality that I have. What's cool is that because I typically don't spend a whole 70 hours in a week on the job, then I get to put a little bit extra to other places. Like quality time on here has 0, but in real life it ends up getting some because I just end up putting a little extra. Something that's not in here at all is working on my future professional life, which is like if I'm doing some trying to film videos because I want content online as part of my personal branding. I got to take some time to do that. I don't have it in here. Next quarter, I'll probably have it set up since I know I want to be committed to it. But the time that I have spent on it now has come from just the leftovers because I don't actually spend 70 on the job. The numbers for everything else are getting hit every single week. I just overestimated for the job to be safe since it's the number one. But yeah, down here, personal branding. Next quarter will probably get its spot. The quarter is over at the end of June. So we got about a month left. But this is my system. I use these documents, these sheets to organize myself. It's really like organizing my thoughts outside of my brain, outside of my mind, in the real world, physically organized on these sheets. So because my thoughts are organized to that level, then I can be so clear about where to put my focus, and then I can make the choices for better alignment. And on my calendar, I'll be switching stuff like I have to be on the fly for the job since the job's unpredictable. The work schedule is unpredictable, so I have to be doing that anyways. But sometimes, like you were saying, like I feel like doing this instead of this. It's still productive. I have a way to justify it because I have a system. And then there's more stuff to talk about how you do that, like what the urgency levels are of things. But my whole point was right before I started to break this down and present this, I was talking about how you got to have the micro commitments and how we run into problems, giving some examples of what other people might say about making plans. My point is that you develop yourself so that you can be disciplined and stick to the plan, but you also need to develop yourself to know what is a good plan. Most importantly, a good plan gives you alignment. And so one last thing I'll say is that in the what I have found for myself is that there's always a balance. And in some of the content online, like the video you sent me, that was like, no, there's no balance. Like I think the guy says that like to make a point. Like many other things that people say, we even do it, right? We'll say something a certain way because we want to make a point. It's kind of like you're using exaggeration to make your point. But it's just the choice of words that you use. And I think there's always balancing going on. Things don't need to be equally balanced. And I think that if someone decides that, like, I think you choose your own criteria. So in your social life, you can choose what your criteria is. But if you're all about success, what do you want to be successful with? Is the question. And I think social life is important for all people, but some people are going to say, no, there's no social life. Like, are you not human? No, you're fucking human. There's social life. Like, let's just say Hormozi, for example. I'm trying to make a point about balance, right? Hormozi has his wife, and he talks about that as like important for him. That goes in his social box. And he still has a social life. It just all revolves around business. So it doesn't matter whether he says it. It doesn't matter if he even knows or not. But the satisfaction he gets from socializing with people based on business is actually feeding for the importance of his social life as a human. it's part of your health to have that part, to socialize. So he may not even see it, or he may see it, he just don't want to talk about it. But there's some satisfaction he gets with socializing with people. He just chooses to socialize with people based on business only. What I'm trying to say is that he has chosen his criteria for success in the social box. That is his criteria. So he says, if you want your business box to look like such and such, then your social box cannot look like such and such. And that's why I think it's about, like, it's still finding the balance. You're just going to rebalance it. And we all go through that. There's plenty of things in here that I don't have, that I used to have in my life. But I had to rebalance. But I still found balance. So that was my deep dive on personal development. I wanted to show you. I don't think I ever showed you that stuff.
Yeah, that's what's up. I think it's cool. I think it's like cool to figure out what it's like being real with yourself. It's like a little paper of being real with yourself, and
Yeah,
that's
that's my contract.
That's your life right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I would make something like that, I would for sure like have to keep it real with myself and